Maybe, we'll start with, for the sake of the audience, anybody who wants to go first, from this question about what really is a social network or a social media platform. People use that interchangeably. And then what makes a platform social for you guys?
So I'll start. Hi, I'm Jason from Airstack. So I think, first of all, I have a very different view of a social network than I think a lot of people do. I think when a lot of people think about social networks, they still think about it in the construct of Web 2, right? So in Web 2, you have social networks like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, and they're like a platform where people meet and they share things between the people on those platforms. And I think that's a very Web 2 construct. And so a lot of people, when they think about Web 3 social, the first thing they think about is a Lens or Farcaster, which are Web 3 social protocols, but basically for creating things that are very like Web 2 social networks, right? So they are their own protocols for building almost like communities or followers or friends and then sharing content within them. It's kind of like a decentralized version of Twitter. And my view of the world is much bigger than that, and it actually fits into a lot with like XMTP as an example. So my view of the world is that Ethereum is the social network, and every EVM, every L1, Ethereum itself, every L2, every protocol, every dApp, every DeFi, everything people use across Ethereum, that is all part of the on-chain graph that people are participating in. And as people participate in different applications and protocols across all the EVM-based chains and the dApps and protocols within them, you're able to build all these interesting connections between people based on the wallets they're using, the behaviors they have. And so one of the things that we've done at Airstack, for instance, is by taking this view that all of Ethereum is the social graph, is we're able to help make recommendations and connect people based on all of their on-chain behaviors and activities, rather than thinking about just what do you do with inside this network or that network or that network. Rather, we're thinking about the totality of the Ethereum blockchain as the network. And that's also one of the reasons why we're super excited about XMTP, because it's a very similar worldview. XMTP, which I'll let Prashant talk about, is a messaging protocol for Ethereum. And it doesn't matter which application you use, XMT works across all of them because it's based on Ethereum, and that just fits right into our worldview at Airstack as well. Yeah.
That's great. I'll share something really cool that happened. I was having lunch with a buddy at Punjab Rasoi, really good butter chicken, really good lachha paratha, and he says this one thing, that hey, anytime I meet someone, I ask them for their Instagram, and the moment they give me their Instagram, I look at all the mutuals, and that starts whole another conversation that, oh shit, how do you know this person? How do you know that person? Oh, so you also studied in Paris. You also studied at the same school. And that is something that he found really exciting. I'm like, wait, you know what you can do on Converse with using Airstack APIs and everything? Now you not only know who are the mutual follows, but you know a lot more. So every time I connect with someone, I know that, oh, so we both collected Patricio's POAP in June. Where were we in June? We were in Paris. Wait, so you were also in Paris. We transacted with each other. We both hold this NFT collection. So there is so much more connections on chain, which will lead up to way more conversations. And at the end of the day, Facebook, Instagram, they have already figured out what a social network is. It's connecting people based on a context. What we are doing is just exploding that. It's on steroids. Now you have so much more data, so much more on-chain data to connect people and have more conversations.
That's really great, and I definitely resonate with a lot of what you guys said. But just for context, I was really surprised that not a lot of people here in this audience have used a decentralized social media platform. How many people here have blockchain wallets? How many people do more than one transaction or one transaction a week on the blockchain? Okay, so we'll just really try for this panel to be sort of an explain like I'm five kind of like panel on decentralized social media. I can probably assume that everybody here has used a social media platform in one way or the other in their life, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. TikTok's banned in India, so probably not TikTok, but Twitter. So, I really want this audience towards the end, hopefully, to start thinking about some of the questions you'd like to ask this panel, because this is really, this group of crowd is really at the frontier of, this new movement of decentralized social media. And because you all use it and it somehow affects, impacts you, we'll have maybe a little bit of time for you to ask those questions. So good way to start thinking about that as these people are talking about that. So thanks both of you for sharing about what really is a social network, and it's a very interesting theory, Jason, about Ethereum being a social network. Now, moving on from that, I think it's a good segue to talk about what really does a decentralized social network mean? People know Facebook, it's a social network. Really, it's putting like our real life friendships online so that we can, interact with people even if they're further away from us, in a low latency way. What makes a social network decentralized? And please try to explain it, knowing that there's a few people here who do transactions on the blockchain.
Yeah, so I'll start on this. So there's a couple concepts to keep in mind. So one of the first thing is just permissionless. And permissionless is the concept that if you want to access the data that's created by the social network or the protocol underneath it, underlying it, or if you want to build an application on the social network or the protocol for the social network, is you don't need to ask anyone's permission to do so. And that's a very different concept with Web3 than with Web2. So for instance, if you want to build an application that, say, leverages the social graph of Instagram, you cannot. Like Instagram permissions that, and they don't provide any APIs for it. It's impossible. You can't do it. Whereas the two social networks that are growing fairly rapidly on Ethereum that I talked about, one is Farcaster and one is Lens. They both enable developers to build applications without asking anyone's permission, to tap into the social graph of the people who are using those networks without asking anyone's permission, to write content to the protocol without asking anyone's permission. And so you can create all sorts of different apps and clients that speak to each other across this social network without having to ask anyone's permission to do so. So this permissionless is a very big concept in the sense that you can have, rather than just being one application doing everything, you can have hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of applications that are building all sorts of different twists and angles on the social platform and leveraging the social graph, et cetera. XMTP is another example of a permissionless protocol which enables you to send messages to people based on their Ethereum addresses. And messaging, if you're familiar obviously with WhatsApp, is a social network. So it's another form of social networking. It's not exactly the same as followers and following and posting status updates, but it's, it's messaging, and it starts off with one-to-one messaging and then group messaging, and then next thing you know, you've got a social network going. So permissionless is the first thing to remember. The second thing is composability. And composability is the concept that you can build applications or systems that combine elements of other applications and systems permissionlessly, right? And this is a very big concept in that you could not just build an application on one of these social graphs or one of these social networks, but you can actually integrate all of them and plus other on-chain data across them. And so, in fact, this is actually why my company, Airstack, has taken off, really, really strongly over the last few months, in that we enable you to build a friends list, for example, and put it in any application that combines the social graph from Farcaster and Lens. So you don't, as a developer, have to choose, am I building in the Farcaster ecosystem or the Lens ecosystem? You can build in both and combine across it. Plus also combine what people have collected in terms of their POAPs. Have you ever heard of POAPs? It's a NFT you get when you go to events. Almost 7 million POAPs have been given out over the last 6 years. So it's like by far the largest social graph, social network on blockchain. So with Airstack, it's composability. You can combine the people that you know through these explicit social networks like Farcaster and Lens, people that you meet in person via things like POAP NFTs, people that you're in the same communities with, whether it's from different NFTs, to also now we're adding the ability to combine what dApps or applications people are using in common. So you could see everyone who's playing this game and then recommend other games to them, or everyone who's using this DeFi or made this swap and then recommend other things to them as well. And that's where we're kind of going back to where I see like this, where this all going is in terms of like what I said at the beginning with Ethereum being the social network, we're seeing wallets, exchanges, for them, like really kind of driving kind of where this goes, where they think about, if you open your wallet, we can recommend things to you based on the on-chain graph, which is all this data that we're able to accumulate around what, who you interact with, who you follow, who you have in common, and then connect these dots about like the applications you're using, the events you've been to recommend things to you, whether it's people you might want to see what trades they're making or applications you might want to try, all sorts of things that we're going to start to see in terms of this new type of social network forming in terms of exchanges and wallets and other types of applications.
Prashant, before you
That's a
jump
complete
into this, I
answer.
just want to interject, and this is great, Jason, permissionless, composability. But Prashant, what does that mean for these people? Assuming probably most people, that use a social network are not developers. They're not thinking about spinning off their own social network. What does it mean for creators? What does it mean for regular people in terms of what a decentralized social network can do for them?
Whenever I am at a Web3 conference, I always take back everything to ownership. Web3 is ownership. Web 1 was read, go to Wikipedia, read. Web 2 is read and write. Go to Facebook, you not only read people's posts, but you also interact. Web 3 is read, write, own, ownership. So now you own your things. What that means, own your assets, crypto, NFTs, own your conversations, XMTP. For social graph, own your social graph, which means who you follow and who follows you. And now when you combine all of that, that's Web 3. No matter where you go, your USDC, your Ethereum is with you on your wallet address. No matter where you go, your conversations, your DMs are with you with XMTP. No matter where you go, within the ecosystem, your social graph is with you on Lens and on Farcaster.
Yeah, I think this is like a really important point because like most end users don't, like the concept of owning your social graph or owning your social network or whatever comes up is interesting, but it's like, okay, but that puts a lot of onus on the user. But it doesn't, and actually what we're seeing enabled now is you sign into an application and automatically everything is there that you want to be there, which you could never do in Web 2. You could never sign into application in Web 2 and see everyone that you already know on Instagram in that other application and benefit from it. Because each application in Web 2 has to build their own social network or their own set of contacts, whereas in Web 3, by making it portable and having this ownership, we can deliver just these magical experiences where like XMTP today, I can send a message to Prashant from Coinbase wallet. He opens up Converse and the message is there. It's two totally separate applications run by different teams, but the message gets across and it's owned in both places by Prashant. And that's just super powerful for end users.
Can I mention one thing? I love that how you're focused on telling a story and helping understand clearly. I'll give one example. I was talking to a friend. She's an influencer. She has like 25,000 followers on Instagram, talks about lifestyle in Vancouver, shares her Pilates routine and like her matcha latte. She has 25,000 followers. Now, that takes a lot of effort to build that much following, but she doesn't align with all the things that Facebook is doing. She recently saw Social Dilemma on Netflix, and she's like, Facebook is not that good. Instagram is not that good. But it's weird. My entire business is on Instagram. The biggest reason is because her social graph. All these people who follow her on Instagram, she doesn't own that. She cannot just take that and go to a different platform and be like, hey, I don't believe in the values of this platform, so I will take my people, take my graph who all follow me and go to a different platform. She cannot do that, and that's the reason she feels stuck.
Absolutely.
And that's where I think like the next step of it also is just the monetization. And so we're now starting to see this burgeoning movement that we call SocialFi, social finance, where you're starting to see new types of applications where instead of just being social, like post a status update or a message to friends, it's social, but it also has financial elements to it, where creators are able to monetize and earn in new ways, and creating all sorts of new primitives for doing so. There's an application that I'm really excited about called BuilderFi, which just launched a beta last week. And what BuilderFi enables you to do is it's an expertise network. So it enables you to find people to ask questions to, and you can invest in people, and if they're providing good answers, you can also, as an investor, share in some of their earnings that they get from answering questions. And I'm sure there's going to be thousands of different models like this that kind of blossom over the next few years. I think we're at the very beginning of a massive SocialFi movement. How many of y'all have heard of friend tech? So I think friend tech is like, think about it's like the CryptoKitties of SocialFi, right? So CryptoKitties was like the first NFT, and everyone saw CryptoKitties and was like, holy shit, there's something here. But still, like several years later, we're still figuring out what NFTs are all going to be about. I think friend tech was like the first one of the SocialFi movement where it was like, okay, interesting, but it's not exactly yet like the utility use case. I think what we're going to see over the next few years is some really awesome utility use cases applying crypto financial aspects to social networks and social graphs that's going to open up all sorts of new use cases and primitives.
Very cool. And I feel like and I hope that, the audience paid attention to this. Like we touched upon various different factors and facets here, of social media, of relationships, both in real life and digital connections, permissionless, composability, monetization, and sort of this creator ownership, and really just ownership. And I think this movement that all three of us are part of, really, the Web3 social media movement, the decentralized social movement, is about, in many ways, creating a better market dynamic for developers where they compete on sort of an equal footing where no one company really captures all the value. And on the user side, it's really returning data ownership back to users and empowering them to be able to travel across the internet, really, wherever they please without being locked into one platform like Meta or Instagram. But however, there's one thing that I think, also important to mention, and it's censorship. This immutability concept of thing, that blockchain offers, may not be, as important for a regular user of a social media, but, we've seen cases all over where, a company like YouTube or Instagram, have an arbitrary policy about moderation or some guidelines that they want you to follow, and you're a creator, and you mention a word or you post a certain kind of photo or whatever it may be, and you stand, you as a creator, as a user, you really are at the mercy of these policies. So decentralized social media also allows to build networks that are censorship resistant, so that if one application does not approve of or does not support your point of view, they cannot ban you, they cannot shadow ban you, they can't just delist you from the feed. There will always be your content living on the protocol level, on the layer level, and it can be shown on different feeds. So this protocol product distinction, I assume that it's not as clear because, we talk about this, we were just talking about it, Prashant and I. So that there seems to be these different design thinking all across Web3 really, but in Web3 social specific, there's, three protocols. CyberConnect is one of them, Lens protocol is one of them, Farcaster is one of them. So building the infrastructure for social networks, these follow modules and like modules, where is the data stored and how is the data stored and what is the identity? And then there seems to be this design of like, we build applications, so front ends on these protocols. Think of it like email as the protocol and Gmail as the front end. You can really take all your emails from Gmail and go to Yahoo if you wanted to do that. And so the value is captured on the front end level, on the Gmail level. You use Gmail because it offers a better experience than Hotmail or Outlook or whatever that may be. So, the question for both of you guys, and Justin, you built a Web3 social app before Jam. What do you think about this approach and the distinctions between it? Like, what do you think is the right way? What do you think will win out in the long term? Should teams just focus on building products and let one or two of these three protocols sort of become like the main layers? Should they just build a protocol and focus on developer ecosystem, or should they do that simultaneously? Much of like what CyberConnect and Farcaster has done, build an app and build a protocol at the same time simultaneously.
I would say, like, first of all, if you have conviction and want to build something, I'm the last person to tell you to stop building it. So, but I would say there's protocols out there now with XMTP, with Lens and Farcaster, and CyberConnect that have enough kind of development to them that I don't think someone coming in necessarily needs to reinvent the wheel there. I think if you are really excited about building something in Web3 social, you could build something on one of those protocols or build something that cuts across them. And I don't worry so much about like, where does the value accrue to? I think if you build an application that people want to use, you can create value. The application I was just talking about, BuilderFi, is not a Lens application or a Farcaster application. It's an Ethereum application, but it leverages the social graph that you build on Farcaster and on Lens, so it's kind of supersetting both of them, and it's using XMTP, so it's like, I would think broadly about how to use all the tools at your disposal across Ethereum and build a great product, not just thinking about which protocol you want to build on.
The CEO of Blockworks, he recently tweeted this: decentralized protocols, centralized products. I thought that makes a lot of sense. How email works today is not perfect. It's almost perfect. What it means is that there is one protocol, there are multiple clients, really good user experiences built on top of it. But what's the problem over here? The problem is Web1 already figured out with open source protocols, they already figured out how to build open source things that will get adoption and that will be adopted by multiple people. The only thing Web1 wasn't able to figure out was economic sustainability. It didn't figure out how to make money for itself. So that's the reason why these few clients, Gmail, Outlook, Yahoo, a couple from China, they took over the email protocol, SMTP. And today, the only problem is that, number one, nobody's incentivized to build on SMTP. The reason why Google is incentivized to build on SMTP, a Gmail, is because Gmail is not where it makes all the money. Gmail is just the place where it gets all the people. It's a product where people come every single day. It's a strategic investment for them. It's not a business model. Gmail is not a business model. So nobody can make money. And number two, if you today want to spin up your own email server, your emails will be blocked. You cannot, your emails will have almost 0% deliverability. So that was the problem in email world. So what we are going towards is decentralized protocols, centralized products. With decentralized protocols, it basically means, sorry, I think I said products. Decentralized protocols, centralized products, and decentralized protocols will basically make sure that things are economically sustainable, and centralized products will basically bring really good user experiences.
Thank you both. Yeah, just for the builders out in the audience here, for a little bit of the context is, you'll see different approaches, and all the way going back to Uniswap, you'll see this as well. Uniswap built a protocol, but also this front end where you can do the swap, but then a lot of different products will use Uniswap's protocol as well. So it's a bit of a, you can think of it as like a development strategy, go-to-market strategy as well. At CyberConnect, we've done that with just sort of focusing on the product, which is called Link 3. The reasoning behind that was we felt like the feedback loop that we build a consumer-facing product, we talk to users, we see what they want, we go back to the protocol level, fix the design, go back to the product, and that feedback loop is much faster. Except that if you're just doing the protocol, you got to invest in hackathons, and you got to go have a DevRel team and have the whole thing there. And it's very hard to measure success there. But it seems like Lens has had great success there as well. So I think in the long term, it remains to be seen which strategy will win out. But just something to think about if you're thinking of building something in Web3 social. I've met so many people at this conference who are really interested in building social applications, and clearly, social applications are some of the products that get used the most in the world. Facebook has 3 billion monthly users. So something to think about. Now, there will be some time after this. This one question I have after this for the audience. But when I think about, guys, when I think about social media platforms, I think about like the history of how social media platforms have evolved over time. And I remember being an Orkut user. Are there any like old Orkut users here? Remember that? Scraps and stuff. And then I remember like that evolving from there to Facebook and Facebook to Snapchat and Instagram, to Twitter, to TikTok, Clubhouse, Be Real now. So you go back and look at all of these platforms, and you see how fascinating the evolution of social, connections and friendships has been, but really how the mediums have changed. As technology improved, as mobile technology improved, as cameras got better, we had things like Instagram and Snapchat. As more intimate kind of connections became more relevant, Clubhouse and now BeReal is the hottest thing. So, guys, when you think about social media, it doesn't have to be Web3 social media. What does the future, or maybe let me put it this way, what does the social media platform of the future look like to you guys?
I have no fucking idea. And the reason I say it like that is you're talking about applications, and there will always be people building different applications. I'm much more interested at the connectivity and between these things that Web3 enables. And I really think we got to get out of this kind of way of thinking about Web3 social and the Web2 lens. We should just be thinking about how do we enable new primitives to develop, because you're able to combine all these elements of permissionlessness and composability and ownership and financial incentives, and create new things, new types of applications that will develop. What they end up looking like, I have no idea. But I do think we're going to see thousands of them blossom, and that I'm very excited for.
I was also thinking about future of wallets recently, and I think that kind of aligns over here, because recently there's a talk that should we even call these wallets when they can do way more than a wallet? So actually, Jason, can I ask you two questions?
Yeah.
Number one, how many times did you open your bank account app today?
One.
Perfect. How many times did you open...
To make sure that I paid my friend, yeah.
How many times did you open your messaging apps today?
Probably over 1,000 times today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So if I am, let's say, if someone is the CEO of a major wallet or a product manager at a major wallet, and they want to increase the user engagement, how do they make sure that they are building something that people don't want once a week? How do they make sure they are building something that people want every single day, every single hour? So what I'm coming to is that I believe that in future, in your wallets, your relationships, your conversations, your reds, unreds, that will be front and center. And maybe the money part will go behind. You want to check your conversations more than your net worth.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. And there was always this question, is there one wallet above them all? Does one wallet win kind of thing? I think we're starting to see wallets evolve from being just a wallet to being more of a broader application. And you think about the North Star of a wallet, so what is the metric that matters most if you're running a wallet, is you make your money when people trade. And how do you get people to trade more? You got to get them to come back to that wallet every day and do more things in it. And as you get them to come back and use that wallet more for things also beyond trading, then you also open up other revenue streams. And so we're working with a lot of wallets, and what they rely on us for is how do they provide recommendations to users of either people that they know for messaging standpoint, because it makes the wallet stickier and more engaging, or dApps they might want to try because they could rely on the wallet for more discovery of things that they might like, for swaps they might find interesting. So it's turning what we originally thought about as a wallet of just being, well, here's my assets, into more like the future, super apps of Web3. And so I think the closest thing that I can almost think about where wallets are going, or some of the better wallets, is if you look at an app like WeChat, which is very different from Western social networks. It's everything all in one app. That's what we're starting to see a lot of the wallets evolve towards. And I think it's super interesting, and yeah, happy to be a part of it also. Yeah.
I'll mention one thing. Stanford or Harvard, I don't know, someone did they had this longest study of in-depth, longitudinal, human life, whatever. The study was about happiness, and their conclusion was good relationships lead to health and happiness. What that means is that your relationships, you basically care about your relationships, and that makes you happy, not how much Bitcoin moved in the past 48 hours. So when you open your wallet, you want to see your relationships, you want to see your people who matter to you, not Bitcoin.
I do think following that is one of the biggest differences we're going to see in Web3 versus Web2 over the next few months, and we're starting to see this now, but kind of getting your question, what's next, is in Web2 we had social networks, specific applications. You think about I open this application and I'm using a social app. In Web3, social is going to be everywhere, right? And in the sense because we can bring your on-chain graph with you to any application you open up, whether it's a game or a wallet or a new financial application. And you just can't do that in Web 2, but in Web 3, okay, you open an application, it shows you which of your friends have already joined, it gives you a button to click and invite the other ones, it has the ability to give you recommendations based on your on-chain behaviors. This is opening up a whole new area where everything has a social fabric to it, and not relying on them being partners with Facebook to make it happen, but it's permeating throughout every application across Ethereum. And this is why I come back to the real social network here is Ethereum, not these individual protocols.
Thank you, guys. Guys, do we have a time for a question from the audience, or any questions? Okay, so we have one question. Great. Okay, please, sir, go ahead.
I think I'm trying to absorb like a lot of information that has been given, and especially with Airstock, like I was like looking at the platform itself. I wanted to get a bit of insights into the user base, or like is it Airstock focused on builders or the users itself? Like, want to get the stats of like idea of like how many users are using the platform itself, and I see a use of AI as well. Wanted to understand the vision, especially with Airstock, with all this.
Thank you. So we're a developer platform. We enable developers to integrate the on-chain graph and composability into their applications. We launched only 9 months ago after a couple years of development, but we had a pretty awesome milestone last week. We've had 1 billion API calls from our users in the last 9 months. And so it's been fantastic for us in the last 9 months. We're both a catalyst for app development in Web3, as well as we're helping people build richer applications that provide more engagement for their users. I guess I'm doing a commercial now. If you go on our website, you can see all the apps that are being built with Airstack. There's a lot of wallets and exchanges that are not listed there, but there's a lot of applications listed there. We work with pretty much every major XMTP application, every Lens application, most Farcaster applications, and we enable them to all talk to each other. That's what we do.
Great. Well, that's going to be it, and I hope this panel was useful, and I hope next year when we come back, a lot of this crowd has .eth handles, .lens, .cyber handles, and we can talk about how that experience has been. Hopefully, this has been educational, and thank you, gents. Cheers.